Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Make Your Library Dementia Friendly. My name is Kayla Fargo, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Demco Software. I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Before we dive into today's webinar, I'd like to start by quickly highlighting who Demco Software is. Next slide, please. At Demco Software, we're committed to developing tools that make it easier for you to engage your community. From managing your events to running year-round reading programs to connecting your patrons to everything your library offers through a user-friendly mobile app, the Demco Discover platform is a suite of tools that helps you solve the real challenges your library faces. We're also committed to educating public libraries on the need for a robust community engagement strategy, which is why we're dedicated to providing free resources like educational blog posts and webinars like the one you're attending today. You can view these resources by visiting demcosoftware.com. And now just a few logistics to cover before we get started. Due to the number of participants, your phone lines have been muted. If you have questions during the presentation, which we absolutely encourage, please feel free to ask them in the questions box of GoToWebinar. We'll answer as many as possible at the end of today's presentation. We'd love for today's webinar to be as interactive as possible, so we definitely look forward to seeing all of the questions you have for our presenters. The slides from today's webinar will be emailed to participants within a few days. When you leave the webinar today, you will see a short survey. We'd love it if you'd take a minute to provide your feedback and ideas for future webinar topics. Next slide. I'd like to welcome today's panelists. We're really excited that they're here. Mary Beth Reidner resigned from her position as university librarian for Roosevelt University in Chicago, Illinois in 2008 to care for her husband who had young onset dementia. She then developed a series of books and reading programs for people living with dementia and has served the past 5 years in leadership positions for the American Library Association's interest group for Alzheimer's and related dementias. Taisha Shea is the reference manager at the library station at Springfield Greene County Library District in Missouri. Taisha's passion lies in bringing library services to older adults and specifically those with Alzheimer's and related dementias. She helped create Stories for Life as part of her library's dementia-inclusive programming and serves as a chair of the Alzheimer's and related dementias interest group. Next slide. And just as a reminder, none of this should be news to you all. You're here because you saw these learning objectives in our webinar invite and you saw something that resonated with you. But just as a reminder, we are here to achieve the following learning objectives. So first, we want to present to you some concrete initiatives that serve as successful models across diverse communities, specifically related to engaging patrons with Alzheimer's and dementia at your library. We want to walk through methods that outreach and medical librarians can use and have success. We want to help you understand some plans that state libraries and public libraries can develop to address the needs of this often forgotten population. So without further ado, I will turn it over to today's presenters.
Well, hello, my name is Mary Beth, and thank you, Kayla, for that nice introduction. And thanks to all of you for participating in this webinar. There is unfortunately a coming tidal wave of people who will be living with dementia. I'm sorry to start with statistics, but it's important to realize the magnitude of this problem that is facing our society and that we are only just beginning to address. According to the Alzheimer's Association, over 5.7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's in 2018. There are also 15 million unpaid caregivers, increasing the total number of persons affected by Alzheimer's in the U.S. today to 22 million. This slide shows the projections for those living with dementia for all 50 states over the next 7 years, with an overall increase to 7.1 million. That number could increase to 14 million by 2050. Baby boomers are turning 65 at the rate of 10,000 a day. As our age increases, our risk for dementia increases. Today, 1 in 10 Americans 65 years and older has Alzheimer's. Many view Alzheimer's and dementia as only an old person's disease. However, hundreds of thousands of young families are impacted, either directly or as a parental caregiver. These are not just statistics for Taisha and me. My late husband was diagnosed at age 56 with a form of young onset dementia called primary progressive aphasia. That is a subset of frontotemporal degeneration. You have probably never even heard of these dementias. Taisha was a secondary caregiver for her grandmother who had Alzheimer's and who lived next door. Perhaps some of you have been affected personally by Alzheimer's or a related dementia in a loved one or friend yourself. So what is dementia? The Alzheimer's Association states that dementia is an umbrella term describing a variety of diseases and conditions that develop when nerve cells in the brain, called neurons, die or no longer function normally. The death or malfunction of neurons causes changes in one's memory, behavior, language, and the ability to think clearly. While 60% of those living with dementia have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease with traditional short-term memory loss, there are many other types of dementia, including vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal degeneration, which affected my husband. A significant number of people are being diagnosed with young onset dementia as early as their 40s and 50s. There are also several stages of dementia: early, middle, and late. Frequently, people are not even diagnosed until they have entered the middle stage. Progression of dementia can be fairly fast or last up for 2 decades. Each person's abilities are affected differently and at their own individual pace. There are tremendous amounts of variation, so it's safe to say that when you have met one person with dementia, you have met one person with dementia. There continues to be a stigma associated with dementia, just as there used to be for cancer or HIV. Fear of the label keeps people unnecessarily from treatment and the opportunity to make plans in advance. It also keeps the general public uneducated about this disease and how it affects the person, their family, and the wider community. When I was caring for my husband, I was aware of how important it was to provide him with meaningful activities that maintained his dignity and self-esteem. By focusing on each person as an individual with their own past interests and current abilities, we can do much to combat that stigma. The gold standard of care for persons with dementia that is now emerging is called person-centered care. This involves treating the whole person, including all of the aspects shown here in this graphic. According to the Alzheimer's Society, which is the British counterpart to the Alzheimer's Association here in the States, the key points of person-centered care are: 1, treating the person with dignity and respect; 2, understanding their history, lifestyle, culture, and preferences, including their likes, dislikes, hobbies, and interests; 3, looking at situations from the point of view of the person with dementia; 4, providing opportunities for the person to have conversations and relationships with other people; and 5, ensuring the person has the chance to try new things or take part in activities they enjoy. Librarians are trying to incorporate these criteria into the programs they are designing. As one Alzheimer's advocate and former caregiver, Beth Reinert, puts it, people with dementia can still have meaningful relationships. As the condition progresses, their ability to communicate may become more difficult. However, they can still show emotion and affection. They are still able to share a laugh or a heartwarming moment together. Just keep the conversation light and simple. Learn to shift what you expect from them. Instead, see the person still inside and develop the capacity to live in the emotional moment with that person. While we don't have time today to go into depth about how to communicate with persons with dementia, there are many resources that can be found online. For example, the Alzheimer's Association offers tips for communicating during the various stages of the disease. It's important to realize that they might need more time to process speech and to formulate their responses. They appreciate a calm, relaxed, friendly atmosphere that encourages their participation in activities they enjoy. If you want to be introduced to several individuals living with a wide variety of dementias, please check out a wonderful series of YouTube videos called Dementia Chat, which are facilitated by Lori LeBay of Alzheimer's Speaks. A former caregiver herself, Lori's mission is to give voice to the true experts about dementia, those living with it. On these videos, you will meet some wonderful, personable, funny, and articulate people who want to tell the rest of us what it is like to live with dementia. Another sometimes overlooked aspect of person-centered care is addressing each person's specific cultural needs. A 2016 study of Native and non-Native residents in Swedish nursing homes showed that those provided with the music, language, food, and arts reflecting their first culture needed less medication and expressed less behavioral disturbances and seemed happier and content. According to the Alzheimer's Association, there are specific steps that we can take to become culturally competent in the context of dementia. Here are just a few. Consider each person as an individual as well as a product of their country, religion, ethnic background, language, and family system. Understand the linguistic, economic, and social barriers that individuals from different cultures face, preventing access to healthcare and social services. And respect cultural differences regarding physical distance and contact, appropriate eye contact, and the rate and volume of voice. Librarians are becoming increasingly aware of the special needs of diverse groups within their communities. For example, the Woodson Regional Library on the south side of Chicago, Illinois, recently went through a multi-million-dollar restoration. At that time, it was decided to make Woodson the city's first dementia-friendly library, providing culturally relevant programming and education around Alzheimer's disease and memory loss. A newly formed library health advisory board is comprised of academics, researchers, health professionals, clergy, librarians, and caregivers. They are aiming to create awareness about this insidious brain disease that adversely affects African Americans by a 2-to-1 ratio. Most libraries already have mission statements that are inclusive, using wording such as, we are committed to providing relevant information, books, media, technology, and programs for all ages. Or, our library's mission is to welcome and support all people in their enjoyment of reading and recreational materials and their pursuit of learning and information. If we take our mission statement seriously, librarians cannot ignore the needs of this large group of persons living with dementia in our communities, even if this might take us outside of our comfort zone. Taisha will now tell you about several programs and services that libraries across the country are providing to put their mission statements into action.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Whoops, sorry about that. So librarians have served older adults with traditional library service for years, whether that was delivering books to homebound patrons or dropping off materials or collections at residential care facilities. Those are just a few examples. But over the last few years, libraries across the nation have responded to their community's need and now provide service directly to those with Alzheimer's and dementia. The approaches are varied, and I'd like to just share a few examples with you. So let's first take a look at examples of outreach programs to residential care facilities. So first up, the Tales and Travel Memory Program. This program takes participants on an imaginary trip to another country or region of the United States and includes books, music, objects, folk tales, and interesting facts about each destination. This program originated in Elgin, Illinois, but through the Creative Commons license is open for others to easily begin this program, and many have. So to find out more information, visit talesandtravelmemories.com. The Elder Plus Reading Program is an all-inclusive adult daycare program where many of the participants have some form of dementia. Program participants eagerly await the library lady each week to read short stories, folklore, or stories from Old Days magazine or Reminiscing magazine. David Kelsey, head of the outreach department, and his assistants do a wide variety of programs at residential care facilities. One program in particular is the Attic Memory Wagon program, which features vintage and antique items. These items inspire memories, engage patrons, and invigorate the senses. Recent attic programs include Pan American Airlines, Depression glassware, and the 1950s fashion and jewelry trends. David and his team, who is pictured here, have also teamed up with local clubs that make fidget quilts and aprons. These small lap quilts, which also sometimes come in the form of a wearable apron, are affixed with zippers, buttons, and other items that people can manipulate to help reduce nervous tension. Kits are another way libraries are addressing the need to provide meaningful or enriching activities. Some libraries provide these kits for residential care facilities. Some libraries provide them for caregivers and their loved ones residing at home. And for some libraries, their kits do dual duty. Kits are typically thematic, often funded with grant money, and are created using the person-centered care principles that Mary Beth talked about. This first kit example are part of my library's Dementia Inclusive brand, Stories for Life. We currently have 25 thematic kits that are used by residential care facilities, but are also available for individual checkout. We had been conducting our outreach program for a few years, so we started off creating kits out of the popular outreach programs that really were a hit with the residents. The Tales and Travel Memory Program also has circulating kits. The kits have many of the same elements that are used in the outreach program and come in thematic luggage bags that keep that travel theme going. The kits also have a caregiver binder with more information about the original library outreach program. St. Charles Public also has caregiver kits for individual checkout. These kits are located in a caregiver kiosk they have inside the branch, and their kits are also thematic. As I mentioned, local history themes are very popular with participants. So as you can see here, they have Chicago sports, which is popular. And studies have shown a direct link between playing games and retraining brain functions. So with this knowledge, East Central Regional Library sought to be proactive in stimulating and engaging the brains of its community. So even though these kits were created with this purpose, they do allow anyone to check them out as all ages enjoy the games. And beyond kits, the West Hampstead Public Library also offers iPods on permanent loan to those community members with Alzheimer's or dementia. Music is a powerful tool and really helps this audience with deep memory recall, to be happier and more social. And beside providing outreach or kits, libraries are also providing in-branch programming. Library programs, I think you'll see, are naturally dementia-friendly. Traditional library programs are safe places to learn and have fun, and this is exactly the goal of dementia-inclusive library programs. Programs you may have already hosted at your library may include healthcare or caregiver programs. So just like other adult or older adult programming, there are likely many possible partners in your community that have ready-to-go programs they're ready to share at your location. One program I would definitely check into is the Choice program, which is coordinated through your local area agency on aging office. Through the Choice program, a free lunch is provided with an activity following. And again, all of this is coordinated by their organization. They're just looking for a space to host it in. And they like that it's somewhere else besides senior facilities. And just having good old displays gets resources front and center and lets caregivers know you recognize them and their needs. When putting out displays, just a note here, of course, make sure that you're stocking current information for patrons. Take a look at the format. Sometimes audiobooks or playaways are more efficient for caregivers. And also, don't forget to promote your digital and streaming services to them. Those services are easy and convenient to use for themselves and for their loved ones. As I said, music can be extremely impactful, even helping folks through their day-to-day activities, and being able to have easy access to that material will be very valuable to them. You also may already be providing media space for other programs from local organizations or to support groups. The goal here is just to make sure these organizations and groups know all the services your library can provide for them. You want to let your community know that your library is dementia inclusive and offer programs directly to that audience in your branch. So even host creative arts program, including painting, dancing, or poetry, much like traditional library programming. And then your community may have an older adults art organization that would be a natural partner, where these can be standalone programs or part of a memory cafe program. And many libraries now are offering these memory cafes. Memory cafes are social gatherings for those who are experiencing early stage dementia, mild memory loss, or mild cognitive impairment, and a family member or a care partner. They serve as places to have fun, find support, and share experiences. Some libraries host them weekly, others host them monthly, and sometimes there's a community partnership or a local organization, such as the Alzheimer's Association, that will get involved. The organization may help take registration or provide a staff member or trained volunteer at the program to answer any social service questions participants may have. So as you can see, these programs are a natural fit for libraries and likely resemble programs already taking place at your library. So you're probably, attending, as Kayla mentioned, because you're recognizing the increasing issue of dementia in your community. And hopefully after this webinar, heed the call to action. I just wanted to share some information and resources that will help you build the case for providing library services to this audience. Of course, when you're looking at demographics and statistics, making sure that you're looking locally as well as all the way out to worldwide. There are lots of different agencies and bureaus, organizations that will likely have information for you, but make sure you review the University Extension Program, state quick facts from the census, look at the Administration on Aging, look at your state's Health and Senior Services Department, your county health department, look at activity professional associations, your state AARP, or library databases, even such as Business Vision, will likely have information for you. And there are many others. Some others that we just wanted to highlight was, besides the Federal Administration on Aging, many states also have regional agencies on aging. Here pictured is the homepage for the one for Missouri, which is my home state. And then, of course, your national and local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association is going to have lots of information for you, including current state Alzheimer's statistics. Your local chapter should also be able to provide you with resources and will likely be a great partner for you. Their Community Resource Finder lists resources, community programs, and services. And then Medicare.gov allows you to identify the number of nursing homes in your area and their ratings. For those whose library also subscribes to Reference USA, that database will also give you facilities in a specified area with their nearby competitors. And I will now give it over to Mary Beth again.
Thank you, Tysa. Let's see, is it going? All right. So as you can see, there's many things that are already happening across the country. The enormity of this looming tidal wave of people who will be living with dementia is beginning to be recognized by the federal government. The purpose of the National Alzheimer's Project Act, or NAPA, that was signed into law in January 2011, is to provide the strategic framework to address this rapidly escalating disease crisis and the coordination of disease prevention and treatment efforts across the federal government. The plan hopes to transform the way we approach Alzheimer's disease by discovering how to prevent and best treat the disease, how to optimize care, how to expand support for the person and their families, and how to enhance public awareness and engagement. NAPA has since held several summits and issued numerous reports, such as this video report on the April 2018 National Research Summit on care, services, and supports for persons with dementia and their caregivers. Another recent report on the living arrangements of people with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia has revealed something that I never knew before. Fully 81% of people living with dementia are still living in the community, while only 19% are living in facilities. This has great implications for libraries, as many of these people are either already coming to the library or could benefit if their needs were recognized and appropriate services and programs were designed for them. Perhaps the circulating kits and the memory cafes that Taisha mentioned might make the most impact for those living at home. In addition, almost every state has developed or is working on a state Alzheimer's disease plan. You can go to the site shown here to see what your state is doing. Also shown is the 2014 through 17 plan for my home state, Illinois. The only thing that I could find out about what the Illinois State Library was doing was a report evaluating the use of LSTA funds from 2014 through 2017. Here's a quote. Among the more interesting projects was the Reddick Public Library District's monthly book and reading program for memory care center and nursing home residents with dementia. Books on various countries around the world were used to encourage travel memories. Reddick was able to report measured improvements in levels of communication and understanding among those who participated in the program, unquote. So it appears that the Reddick Public Library has brought the Tales of Travel program that Taisha mentioned earlier to their community. The National Library of Medicine, through its National Network of Libraries of Medicine, or the NNLM, is also starting to get involved. The network is divided into 8 geographic regions, and through the regional offices, the NNLM offers funding for projects to improve access to health information, among other goals. The Tales and Travel Memories program received a grant from the Greater Midwest region of the NNLM to conduct a research study into the effectiveness of the program. This type of funding may also be available from your regional office. In order to receive funding, your library needs to become a member of NNLM, but membership is free and open to public libraries as well as hospital and medical libraries. You can find the simple membership application under the Member tab on the NNLM website. The Tales and Travel Memories program was also recognized by the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. last fall, when they announced the winners of its 2017 Literacy Award. Tales and Travel was selected as one of 15 best practice honorees identified from across the nation. It's our hope that this honor will encourage librarians across the country to recognize the benefits that they can offer to people in their communities living with dementia. So what is ALA doing? For several years, both Taisha and I have been on the leadership team of the Alzheimer's and Related Dementias Interest Group, or IGARD, which was formed in 2013. This interest group has directed its energies to coordinating the efforts of librarians across the country who are interested in offering these types of services. As Taisha outlined earlier, librarians across the country are already responding to the needs of their communities and offering innovative and effective programs. Since there is strength in numbers, IGARD was begun to help unify our voices. The leadership team has identified so much that needs to be done, but to be realistic, there's not enough manpower to get these things accomplished. More volunteers are needed to make sure that this work expands and improves. For example, our new communications chair, Katie Elkins, recently created a blog for IGARD. This has enabled us to post a toolkit that contains advice and examples of positive practice to facilitate active and meaningful involvement of people living with dementia through library programming and outreach. Included in the toolkit are sections on dementia and libraries, why libraries should be involved, materials, programming, implementation, communication, caregivers, and resources. IGARD also has a free listserv to help facilitate communication. Here are the instructions on how to join the list. Please consider becoming a member of IGARD, or at least subscribing to our free listserv. We'd love to get some great discussions going. There is a new national initiative that has emerged in recent years called Dementia Friendly America, or DFA, which appears to be a natural ally to IGARD's efforts. There are now communities in 28 states across the country moving toward becoming dementia friendly. DFA is a collaborative effort uniting all aspects of a community, including government bodies, first responders, businesses, faith communities, legal and financial services, health services, and community organizations. But when I first learned about DFA, there appeared to me to be something critical missing: the public library. That has since been corrected, and DFA has added a sector guide for libraries outlining a wide variety of ways that librarians can add value to the dementia-friendly movement. I've given a few webinars to dementia-friendly communities across the country, and they are thrilled to hear about the wonderful ways that libraries can contribute to their dementia-friendly efforts. Alabama and Illinois are two states that are actively moving forward to becoming dementia-friendly. Do you know if there's a dementia-friendly initiative in your state? You can go to the DFA website to find out. I am most aware of what is happening in Illinois, but I know that there are local organizations across the country taking on the task of offering dementia-friendly training, notably to first responders. Christine Damon, the former director of CareSmart Illinois, has recently begun offering dementia-friendly training to library staff in Lake County, Illinois. I believe it's time for everyone who works in a library, from the administration to reference librarians to circulation clerks and shelvers to building and security staff, to receive training in how to deal with the people with dementia who are already coming, accompanied or unaccompanied, into the library. I've been working with the Gail Borden Library in Elgin, Illinois, to prepare a proposal, possibly in concert with the Public Library Association, for an NNLM grant to develop a training curriculum for library staff so that this type of training can be offered to libraries across the country. Which brings to mind the question, how are future librarians being prepared to deal with this growing population? Over the past few years, I have been contacted by a few MLS graduate students who have wanted more information about working with this group of people. That's encouraging, but it also shows the need for library schools to include people living with dementia in their diversity training. At the University of Illinois, my alma mater, there's a course in their MSLIS catalog called Community Engagement. Perhaps this might be the place where future librarians can be introduced to working with this growing population. As I was working on this presentation, it occurred to me that I have more questions than answers. If the library profession is interested and willing to provide programs and services to this large group of people and their even larger number of care partners, we need to become proactive and take a leadership role in our communities to actually transform lives. Here are some of the questions that I think we need to ask ourselves if we really want to make progress. What is my state government doing? What is my state library doing? What is the NNLM office in my region doing? What is my state library association doing? What more can ALA be doing? What are library schools doing? Is there a dementia-friendly movement in my state? What are other libraries in my area doing? What is my library doing? Working with those living with dementia is very rewarding. They are all just people like you and me who want to be valued as human beings, treated with respect, and given opportunities to participate in life as much as possible. Maybe they can no longer drive or balance a checkbook or live on their own, but they can certainly still enjoy the moment. When you offer them library programs and services, you will receive many thanks and smiles and requests for you to come back. Please be aware, though, that some people with dementia, as they progress through their disease, may be losing the ability to express their gratitude. But you will know in your heart that you have done something important that has brightened their day. Will librarians, as leaders in their communities, be in the forefront of planning for the realities of what is to come? I certainly hope so. Thank you for your time and attention. Here's our contact information if you want to reach out to us in the future. And it looks like we might have time for some questions.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. What an excellent presentation. We do have quite a bit of questions in our questions panel, but as a reminder for those folks still on the line, we are still actively monitoring the questions panel. So if you have questions to ask of Mary Beth or Taisha, feel free to submit them and we'll get through as many as we can. So to kick things off, the first question is, in your experience, what has been the biggest challenge your library or the libraries you've featured has had in establishing programs for people with dementia? And then subsequently, any advice for overcoming those challenges?
Well, I guess this is Mary Beth. The biggest challenge was probably finding the group of people who would participate in these programs with you. So what we did was we went to a couple of nursing homes and memory care facilities in the area and offered them the program, and they jumped on the idea. I mean, the activity directors are eager to have new programming brought into their facilities. So that was really easy. You know, it seemed like a challenge, but the word spread. We're now up to, I think it's 18 different facilities that we bring things to. So they become very, very open to having new free programming brought to their facility.
Great.
This is Taisha.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. This is Taisha. I was just going to add to, I think that also a challenge that we're facing here is that getting staff participation and willing to participate in this types of programming. Often staff are hesitant or think they need special training or et cetera, which is not the case. I mean, I think if you have been affected personally by in your life with someone who had Alzheimer's or dementia, I think then you have like an understanding. And even if you don't, and staff need training, there's basic classes that they can go through the Alzheimer's Association for communication and things like that. But in general, like Mary Beth said before, and what she has been saying to me for years that has resonated with me is these are just folks just like you and me who want to have quality of life and have value and be respected, and approaching them just like you would any other program or outreach event is key. And then also I think getting administrative buy-in and saying these are the goals of our programs or our outreach so that it comes from the top down and it's not just you know, your seed program that you started with, but really getting that and then having buy-in from all staff when it comes from the top down.
Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of feedback in the questions panel that people are really appreciating that you're talking not just about folks who have Alzheimer's or a related dementia, but also the folks that are charged with taking care of those people. One of the questions that came through was whether or not you had any ideas to help grandchildren or children understand what's happening to their loved ones who might be impacted by dementia.
This is Taisha, if I could jump in here. In our community, my branch hosts a grandparents resource fair that has been very, very popular and well attended. And so during that time, we offer some information and education during that time. And then the Youth Services Department might hold a story time that geared around that sort of topic to help folks with that. And then we have other just picture books and resources out for them.
Yeah, and this is Mary Beth again. I know that one of our iGuard members has put together a bibliography of book, you know, of Grandma and Me or something like that. That would be useful to kind of explain in a simple way to young children, you know, what's happening with Grandma and Grandpa. So I don't think we have that list yet, but on our website, but we can certainly put it as soon as possible onto the blog. So you're more than welcome to look for that soon.
Yes, and there's a new book out that's called The Remember Balloons that was just recently published that is a beautiful story about that. Perfect.
Another question came in here. So a lot of the programs that you featured today were events that might take place in an assisted living home or in a space outside of the library. But I understand that there's also events that you could host in your physical library branch. Do you have any insight you can share about the success of one versus the other? So in terms of attendance, do you find that events hosted for these dementia-friendly audiences, I guess, are are more successful when hosted in the library or hosted in a different space?
This is Taisha. Let's see. I don't know if they're comparable or not. When you're going to the outreach facility, then you are connecting with the activities director and you are relying on them specifically to make sure that folks get to your program, right? So the better, I've been visiting facilities for like 5 years. And so with those activities directors, I have a really great relationship, and they, they always bring a lot of folks to the program, right? But you're essentially relying on them to gather them for you, right? For the in-branch programming, I think memory cafes are definitely the thing that a lot of public libraries are going to. It's much like a traditional library program. You're just stating that it's dementia inclusive so that people know that it's a safe, fun place where they're going to be other like-minded folks there with them and their care partners, and care partners know that too. And I think, so doing a program like a memory cafe for us at my branch, I know that music programs in general go well. And so when I had a program like that it was more well attended than another type of program. So it goes back to more like, how do you look at adult programming at your branch, and how are you reaching and promoting that? Connecting with people in your community to let them know that these programs exist, with support groups in your area and things like that to help market that, I think goes a long way. Also, having the local Alzheimer's Association or chapter or another organization helping with a registration, or having a person like a staff member or trained volunteer on site will go a long way also in being able to get greater library participation.
Perfect. Another question, this is a good one. What, if any, tips do you have for staff who are working at the circulation desk that encounter patrons with dementia? So maybe they're struggling to find their card, maybe they need some more hands-on assistance finding whatever it is that they're looking for. Do you have any suggestions for how library staff members might accommodate those patrons while also being mindful of spending too much time with a single patron?
That's something I think that we are hoping that our staff training will address, because this is a common issue. Most of the time, just having patience with them and maybe saying, maybe redirect them if possible, and say, if you sit in that chair in a few minutes, someone will come and address your problem. There's a host of things that have been suggested, but I don't think we have time to talk about them all here. Yeah, but that's a major problem that I think dementia-friendly training would help with.
Yes, and this is Taisha. I do think that while some libraries are creating policies, if you will, some of them refer to them as vulnerable adults and sort of lunk a great number of folks into that on how to address that. But I think most folks are just addressing it procedurally, which I think is what the question is. And yes, I think just learning communication tips that we didn't have a lot of time to go over that are from the Alzheimer's Association or other groups about giving time, not interrupting, giving time for them to answer, meeting them where they're at and staying in their moment. Things like that will be useful. But again, I apologize, that's what Mary Beth said about staff training.
Great. For a library who's not offering any programs or resources specifically to this audience today, what's the very first thing you would suggest they do to help their library become, or take the first step towards becoming dementia friendly?
This is Taisha. I would say reach out to your local Alzheimer's Association and see if they would like to partner with you and host a memory cafe, because it is very much like hosting a traditional library program.
Another thing you could do is to start offering educational programs for people who are dealing with someone in their lives who has dementia, because the Alzheimer's Association chapters offer lots of educational programs too. So that might be a first step, and then get your toes wet, and then think about how work with that association and see what you come up as your next step, which would very likely be a cafe or circulating kits.
Great. And then this is kind of continuing on that spectrum, but do you have advice you can share with libraries who are maybe already hosting dementia-friendly programs, but they're struggling to get the word out about those offerings, or the events that they're hosting within that category of dementia-friendly aren't really driving the attendance numbers that they had hoped for?
Yeah, reaching out to the support groups in your area, if you can identify those, would probably be very helpful. The Alzheimer's Association might be aware of some of those. Local churches might be hosting some of them. So if you can find a few caregivers who really buy into this whole program, they will spread the word themselves. And another thought, I am in Arizona right now, and they have a weekly memory cafe, which is maybe very optimistic. But they have 40 people attending, but they're also opening up to other communities around them, surrounding communities. So maybe, libraries can get together and cooperate and pull together people from local geographic area to attend.
Great.
Yes, and this is Taisha. The Library Memory Project that is offered by the Bridges Library System, I think, is a wonderful example of that. And they also have weekly memory cafes, but several libraries and several communities around a particular area in Wisconsin there do that. And they have a great outline for how to replicate that.
Great. And then I think we'll just ask one more. You mentioned a couple times throughout today's webinar that there may be grant programs available to libraries interested in circulating memory kits, or really just providing other sorts of dementia-friendly kits or dementia-friendly programs. And then I think after this question was asked, you did mention some of the funding programs through NNLM, but are there other resources like that that you're aware of that libraries could pursue in terms of funding these initiatives?
This is Taisha. Do you want to take that because you voted? Yeah.
I was going to say, definitely look local. We received a grant from a senior citizens tax fund here locally to help with kits, and they were very excited about a library project. Also, we have other community partnership organizations in town who offer varying sizes of grants and able to secure funding like that. Libraries, this type of program, while they like to target older adults, when you let them know that you're targeting those with service directly to those with Alzheimer's or dementia, they get very, very excited and are willing to give you money for that. So that's great. And then also look to your state library for possible grant funds. Perfect.
I think we're gonna cut it off there. But for those of you who asked questions that didn't get resolved today, if it's all right with you, hopefully it is, I am going to reach out to you individually via email to see if we can't connect you with some resources to answer those more specific or niche questions. But thank you all again so much for attending today. And thank you times a million to Mary Beth and Taisha for presenting such a great webinar. Based on the feedback, I can tell that people really, really enjoyed it and have taken a lot away from it. So thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic afternoon.
Thank you.